talk about the Rebbes Shita, about Zionism, first we have to understand what Zionism is. And most people don't understand. And I want to tell you that when the Rebbe wrote Vayol Moshe, a lot of people make a toys. They think that Vayol Moshe is the Rebbe's explanation of what's wrong with Zionism. It's mamish not it. That's not why he wrote Vayol Moshe. Vayol Moshe was about making a Medina. A Medina and Zionism are two different things. In fact, there's three different things. Thing number one, there's Zionism. Zionism is a hashkafa. The Chasidim call, what we call hashkafa, the Chasidim say Shita. It's a hashkafa, it's a Shita, it's an ideology. You don't even need people should have it. The person can make an ideology on paper or whatever he wants. You don't even need a Medina for Zionism. There was Zionim and Zionism before Medina. In fact, one of the Groisot Zionim wrote in an article in a Zionistische magazine, I think it was 1904. I don't remember, but I saw it. Better Zionism without Zion than to have Zion without Zionism. That means better we should be Zionim on a Medina than to have a Medina and not be Zionim. That's what he said. There's a difference. There's Zionim, Zionism, and a Medina. Three things, and each one is a separate sugya. I'm going to write this down over here. Three separate things. There's Zionism, Zionists, and Medina. How we deal with Zionism is one parsha. How we deal with Zionists is another parsha. And how we deal with the Medina is another parsha. So first, what's Zionism? Now, in the Rebbes Svarim, he speaks ruba de ruba about either Zionists, Kaifin, the Zionim, or the Medina. But there is a place, now there's two. Until a few years ago, there was only one, where he touches up, Klor, what's Zionism? What's the ideology of Zionism? And I have over here from the Chiddushei Torah Mesibus in Parshas Pinchas. Now, there's no tape on this drasha because this was said on Shabbos. I think it was 1955 in Bnei Brak. In Bnei Brak. Parshas Pinchas, Chiddushei Torah Mesibus. And he's talking about Ivrit. Now, Ivrit, a terrible aveir, he says. Ivrit has nothing to do with the Shalosh Ruos. If you speak Ivrit, you're over on the Shalosh Ruos. You become a shutif like the Bechiras and the aveir, the Shalosh. No shaykhs with the Shalosh Ruos. So the Torah Shekas of Min, yes. Because the words, yes. But that doesn't explain the Choymer Ha'isah. Here he explains it. Now listen carefully. Chutz mikol hanal, Sefer Torah Shekas of Min, the words, Borur, ki tachlis kol hasofa hazois, etzel kol hameflogos, v'ho organizatsias shalahem, min hakotza el hakotza, min hasmoil v'yad hayamin, asher bezeh kulon shovin yachad l'ro, hu rak dover echad v'hu Zionism. Uperish shel Zionism, harehu nationalism. Dahainu, shal yidei hasofa v'hatzionism nasim la'am. Zois meres, shal yidei zeh yihiyu nichshavim le'yehudim. V'zeu hepach das Torasenu ha'kedosha dal pi ha'Torah einoi nichlol b'chal Yisrael, elo misha nisnahik b'darki ha'Torah mekayim mitzvaseho. And now listen to this because this is the Iker quote. De'ein umosenu umo elo b'toyroso kinoida. Kinoida? I'll tell you why it's kinoida. Whoever wrote this over didn't put the mucker in. But these last words, Ein umosenu umo elo b'toyroso, is a quote from Rav Sadia Goin in Emunois V'deos. Whoever wrote this didn't write that it's a kinoida. It's a Yaduatika quote from Rav Sadia Goin, and this was the Iker Taina against Zionism. Zionism was an ideology that said that Klal Yisrael is an Am Kechol Hagoyim. That means that what makes the French people French? France, French food, the French language, and whatever else they do in France. What makes the Italians Italians? The language, the land, the culture. What makes the Yidden the Yidden? The Torah HaKadoshah, nothing else. There is nothing else that makes Klal Yisrael, no common land, no common language, no common culture. There in Lashon HaKodesh was not something that made us into an Am. What made us into an Am? Hayoim hazen hiyesa la'am. Kabbalas HaTorah. Before Kabbalas HaTorah, there were no Klal Yisrael, even if the Avos were Yidden. It's the machlokes, right? But there was no Klal Yisrael. They were individual Yidden. But Klal Yisrael, Am Yisrael, there was no such thing. There was Am Yotzei Mitzrayim, but even Yitzias Mitzrayim was only the beginning of Kabbalas HaTorah, like the Pasuk says, Talten Elokim al HaHor Hazeh. Yitzias Mitzrayim was the beginning of Kabbalas HaTorah, and Na'aseh V'Nishma was the end of Kabbalas HaTorah. But Kabbalas HaTorah made us, it means if there wouldn't have been a Kabbalas HaTorah, it's not the pshat we'd be Yidden without a Torah. We wouldn't be Yidden. And if another Am would have been Makabel the Torah, they would be the Yidden. Whoever is Makabel the Torah is the Yidden. We get transformed. A Yiddish neshama, a Yiddish midas, Yiddish koiches, only comes because of the Torah, nothing else. You didn't have a holy land, Eretz Yisrael. But that doesn't make us an Am. It's not a national homeland. Well, how do you say homeland in Lashon HaKodesh? What is a homeland? People told me Eretz Yisrael is a homeland. They don't even know what they're saying. And I asked them, if it's a homeland, there should be a Lashon HaKodesh word. What is the word for homeland? Moledes. Like Avram Avinu. Lech lecha mi'artzecha u'miladetcha mi'beis avicha. Moledes means the place the Am was born. And in the Israeli Declaration of Independence it says, in this land the Jewish nation was born. That's apikorsis. We were not born because we went into the land. We were born on Har Sinai, we're in the Midbar, where there was no land and there was nothing, because only Hayom Hazeh Niyesa La'am. Lashon HaKodesh is a tool for us to get closer to Hashem. It's not like English that makes us into Americans, Anglos, whatever you want to call it. The kesher that one American has with another is because they speak the same language, because they have the same country, because they have the same culture. The kesher that one Yid has to another is only because they both were Makabel Torah. That's it. Nothing else. Ein umaseinu uma ela b'toirasa. The land, Eretz Yisrael, was given as a tool to be Makayim the Torah, closer to Hashem. The language, Lashon HaKodesh, was a tool to become closer to Hashem. But only Hashem is the only thing that makes us Yidden. The Torah, Hashem, I'm using them interchangeably. Without the Torah, there are no Yidden. If you don't believe in Kabbalas HaTorah, you don't believe Sedah Zazach Klal Yisrael. Just like when the Torah came down, so there was Malachim, that all sorts of midrashim, what happened. One of the things that happened, that all these refugees from Egypt, we were Egyptian refugees, were now like that, transformed into Yidden, Klal Yisrael. It was created. You want to know what's the taich of a Yid? A Yid, Judaism, it's not a nationality. It's not, we have nothing in common as far as nationality is concerned. We speak the same language. Me and the Yemenite Yid that lives around the corner from me, we don't speak this now, we all speak English, but he speaks Yemenite, different culture. His mother is, where Mami looks like a Yemenite from the Alta Haim from Yemen. We only have one thing in common. We're both Makabel Torah. We're Chayiv in mitzvahs, that's it. And if you don't believe that there was such a thing as Kabbalas HaTorah, you don't believe that there's such a thing as Klal Yisrael. There's no such thing that I'm a Friar Yid that means that I don't believe in Kabbalas HaTorah, but I love the Jews. What Jews? What's a Jew? You don't even believe there's such a thing as Klal Yisrael. So you have a different type of what's a Jew. Maybe you think a Jew is some kind of tribe, or maybe you think Jews are some kind of nationality. You're an oived avodah zarah. This Zionism, this nationalism, this is the real echte Zionistische avodah zarah, even without a Medina, because Yisrael v'Raisa v'kudsha brichu chadu. And if you say that Hashem is, the original oived avodah zarah said Hashem is different. They made a new Hashem, a physical Hashem. The Christians made a new Oraisa, they made a new Torah. And the Tziyonim made a new Klal Yisrael. It's the same avodah zarah. If you say that we're a nationality, the Jews are a nationality, anybody that believes he's a Jew that doesn't believe in Kabbalah HaTorah, that's Zionism. That's the ideology. You don't need a Torah to be a Jew. You have a sprach. You have a language. And I understand what the Rebbe is talking about. It's nationalism. Later he says, later in the same shtickle over there, he says again, listen to the Loshen. Ha'ikar hu, first he says, Lihizar b'chol dvarim hamurim l'mayla b'nyoni hatznias, v'lihi yoizoriz v'nishma shloim lihi gar achrei hatziyonim l'minehem, u'lachol meflogoi sehem ha'nigrorim achreihem, v'eimin hatzarich lefartum b'henu b'shem oisehem, avol mitzah hatzar ha'shova shebahem, shekulam she'ifosam hi ha-nationalism, asher hi kefira mamish. This is the kfir of Zionism. Zionism makes statement number one. The Jews are a nationality, or the Jews are an ethnicity, or the Jews are a race, or the Jews... Different Sionim had different shitas, because the truth is, as you're going to see in a moment, if you don't hold that this Kabbalah HaTorah makes the Yid and a Yid, you're not going to have anything that makes any sense. What nationality? What national characteristics do all Jews have? Jews have nothing in common. Nothing! Except for one thing. The Torah Akdoshah. That Zionim wanted to make, no. We have other things in common. We have a sprach, ivrit. That's our national language. Now you see what they're trying to transform Klal Yisrael from a thing that was created durch the Torah to a Amka Chol HaGoyim. We have a language and we have a land. Eretz Yisrael is not the Holy Land. Eretz Yisrael is a homeland, the Moledet, the place where the nation was born. That's what their Declaration of Independence says. That's avodah zarah pikorsis. We were born on Har Sinai. The land does not make us into an Am, and the Sprach does not make us into an Am. That Zionism means. Listen, if somebody asks you, what's Judaism? It's not an ethnic. It's not even a religion. It's a religion, but it's more than that. If somebody asks you, what's a kosher piece of flesh? So you say, whatever the Torah says is kosher, that's the Taich kosher. It's a religious doctrine. The Torah made it kosher. It's the same thing. What's a Yid? What's Jews? The Torah gave a status to certain people. They said they're Jews. You're chayiv in mitzvahs. You're chayiv in more mitzvahs. You're chayiv in less mitzvahs. Whatever the Torah gave a status to a Yid, that makes him a Jew. Because the Torah says he's a Jew. If you don't believe in the Torah, you don't believe there's such a thing as a Jew. And if you do believe that there's such a thing as a Jew, and you don't believe in the Torah, that's Zionism. That's Zionism. If you want to know the taich, what Zionism is, means that it's shaykh to be Jews without Kabbalah HaTorah, without religion. How? So now there are all sorts of different shitas amongst the Tziyonim. But one thing is not. It's not the Torah. That's Zionism. End of story. Anybody that believes that he's a Jew, Kal v'chomer, if he believes he's a good Jew and a proud Jew and he loves you, but he doesn't believe in Hashem, or he doesn't believe in Kabbalah HaTorah, he doesn't believe in the Torah, that's Zionism. That's avodah zarah. All the Litvaks, the Rebbe just said it, that's the type Zionism, the Hainu nationalism. It says nationalism, in the Nun Aleph nationalism it says there. That's Zionism. And all the Litvaks, they had the same time. Rabbi Chonan writes on nationalism is avodah zarah, and that's Zionism. Rabbi Grozovsky, Lagabe the Shitas HaAguda, wrote a sefer Ba'ayos Hazman. He says, starts off, what's Zionism? Nationalism. That's avodah zarah. L'chol hadeyas. That's what Zionism was, and l'chol hadeyas, it's apikorsis avodah zarah minus. Nothing to discuss. Which means that any connection that people think that Jews have, besides Hashem and the Torah, is a Yiddish Jewish country, the Jewish land, the Jewish army, the Jewish flag, the Jewish language. it's all avodah zarah. There's only one thing, the Jewish Torah and mitzvahs. Nothing else is Jewish. When you say a Jewish state, what does it mean, a Jewish state? A person can be Jewish. It means, like the French, it's a French state. That saying that anything is the state of the Jewish people, that's avodah zarah. Jewish people have no state. We never will have a state. We have a holy land, and David HaMelech, and Shaul HaMelech, Shlomo HaMelech, they had a melucha, but the melucha was not a national state of the Jews. This is the most important yohrtzeit in understanding Zionism. If you understand this, you understand everything about them. If you don't understand this, you understand nothing. Now, I want to tell you something. Step two. Step two. Nationalism was a philosophy. It came about in the 1800s, which is why Zionism developed in the 1800s. And just like other philosophies, let's take communism, for example, there are many different madregas of nationalism. It's like communism. If you say that, I know there should be a lot of welfare and the government should regulate businesses, so that's not mamish communism, but it's, it's in the direction, right? Then there's socialism, and then there's Soviet communism. It's not even the most Chinese communism. Same thing with nationalism. There are a lot of different shitas. Nationalism, in the most basic thing, meant that there's such a thing as a nationality. It used to be in the olden days before nationalism. There was no such thing. If I was in England, I didn't look at myself as an Englishman. I looked at myself as a subject of the king, King Egbert, Lamoshel, right? If I was in France, the French king, and I fought a war for my king. Nationalism meant, no, I'm not just King Egbert's subject. I'm an Englishman. I'm a Frenchman. It's part of your identity. It's part of who you are. And the group is a little stronger. Madreg of nationalism means that if you put the group together, it's greater than the sum of its parts. That the English people, when you put them together, it creates, we're not just a bunch of people, like a corporation is a bunch of people that have a connection with each other, a business relationship. A country, a nationality, is not just that. It's something new. It's a gestalt. That's German. I don't think they have that in English. It means that if you have something that's bigger than, different than all the parts, there's such a thing. You are a part of England in the sense that the cells are only, the identity of a cell is only as a chelik of a guf. My fingers are not individual fingers, they're a chelik of my guf. And we're all a chelik of our country. You hear? Then there's even a stronger madrega, where the people, mamish, don't even have any identity, except as members of their country. These are wilde, wild, crazy philosophies. People don't believe them anymore. But Zionism took the most strongest, wildest. There are different madregas in nationalism, but they have the strongest, wildest type of nationalism. There's Aaron David Gordon, a friar, big Tzioni Apikoiris. He said this, that all the Jews are cells in the body, and the body is the Jewish nation. And what happens with this is that Jews don't have interests as individuals. It's only the collective that has interests. It's like my finger doesn't have any individual interests. I do. Whatever's good for me is good for my finger. If something's bad, there's a me, right? Now who's the me? The me is the Am, the nation. Ben Gurion had this Shita. He called it mamlachtius. It means that the interests of Israel, whatever is good for Israel, is good for the Jews by definition, because Israel is the Jews. The Jews' interests are not interests of us, not even interests of the friar. Whatever is good for Israel is the interests of the Jews. That's why he said when he took the money, the reparations from the Nazis, and they asked him, how you talking, you take these reparations, mamish, it's blood money. Right? What, you're taking mamish, it's cook for kapara over here. So he said, no, if the Holocaust victims victims would be around today, they would say, whatever's good for Israel, that's what we want. Whatever's good for Israel is by, not the pshat, vice dois, it's good for the Jews. Because that's the taich, it's good for the Jews, because Israel is the Jews. This is what they want. Let me tell you what else comes out because of this. If you like Israel, you can hate the Jews, but you're a good person. You're not an anti-Semite. If you like Israel, why? Because Israel is the Jews. And if you don't like Israel, then you're an anti-Semite, even if you have nothing against Jews. Why? Because the spirit of the Jews is Israel. Mamela, whatever, if you don't like Israel, you are behechrach an anti-Semite. Not it's a simon you're an anti-Semite. It means you're an anti-Semite because the spirit of the Jews is Israel. Israel is, and fakert also. If you like Israel, you can hate Jews. It doesn't matter, you're okay. You're a good guy. We see this Bisman Hazeh. This is the ideology. This is Zionism. This is what the Rebbe says. This is what he says, nationalism. Now, two things I want to tell you about that piece in Pinchas. Thing number one, they reprinted it in the Divrei Yoel Madura Tinyana in Parshas Pinchas, but they changed it a little. I mean, they wrote it over a little. Instead of nationalism, they wrote Leumiyus, okay? But they left out a few words. Remember I said that those words, they say, Kinoida is a quote from Rav Saji going, even though they didn't cite in the Tzu over here. So in the Divrei Yoel Parshas Pinchas, Madura Tinyana, they wrote, Ki tachlis kol hasafa hazois is al kol ha-miflogois, hainu davrecha behu ha-tziyonis, hainu ha-liyumiyis, shal yidei hasafa nasim la'am, lihi yois nechshavim la-yehudim, shizau hepach das teire, ki al pi teire loy nichol ba'adas yisrael, rak oisoi shemisnag bedarkei toiv loy zulas. That's it. They left out those four words, which are from the Orach Chaim HaKodesh, which is mamish ikar choser min ha-sefer. Literally, ikar choser min ha-sefer. That's the ikar. So today it's in two places, this drasha. It's in the Chedushei Torah Mesibis and in the Divrei Yoel Madura Tinyana, but in the Mesibis, it's better. It's better. And there's no tape because it was said on Shabbos, so that's the best you're going to get. This is the most important. Now I want to tell you something else about that drasha. If you notice, the Rebbe said what looks like a Mod Nazach. It's got it. Nationalism is kfira, that's Zionism, the Hainu nationalism. But he said twice, both times, in the same drasha, these extra words, mamish, here. Boruki tachlis kol hasafa hazois etzel kol ha-meflogois v'harganizatsias shelahem min hakotza el hakotza min hasmoil v'yad yamin asher bezeh kulam shavim l'ro dover echad v'hu Zionism dahainu nationalism. This thing, bein l'shita zu, l'chol ha-meflogois, bein yamin, bein. What does he mean to say by that? Then he repeats it again later on when he says to stay away from that it's a precoursus. He says, "Liyoizoris v'nishma shloili higora achrei hatziyonim leminehem u'lechol meflogoisehem hanigrorim achreihem ve'min hatzorich lefartom bahenu b'shemoisehen aval hashad hatzad hashava shebehem shekulam shifa." Why is he doing this? What does he mean to say? You want to see something amazing? Mamish amazing. There are two parts to the Rebbe's Shita. And so far, by the way, this is not the Rebbe's Shita, as we said. Everybody says this. This is all the Litvaks. This was their main Ad Hayom Hazeh. The nationalism, Sheba, Zionism, was the Ikar Avodah Zarah that they all stelled on. But this thing with Kol ha-meflogois organizatsias min ha-smol yad yamin kulam shovim l'ro dover echad. What is he saying? Twice he says it. You want to hear something amazing? There's two parts to the Rebbe Shita. Part one, the Shita itself, and part two, the Metzias. In every Shaila and Halacha, you have to know the Metzias, and you have to know the Din. So there's two parts to Zionism too. There's the Metzias, which the Tzionim try to conceal all the time. Zionism is just the right of the Jews to a homeland. The Zionism is just getting away from, it's all shtusim, it's not true, it's all fake. We're going to get there. We have to know the metzias, what they really mean, what they really want, and two, then there's the din. This idea that he said, Kol HaMeflogos, I have in front of me a copy from a Zionistische book. It was written by a guy, Amnon Rubinstein, a very left-wing Zionist. He was the head of a very anti-frum party called Shinui. He was a leftist, and he wrote a book about Zionism. Now, you remember the Rebbes Lashon? Kol HaMeflogos meant. Listen to this. Listen to this. This is printed, I know, in Letztens, years after the Rebbe said this drasha. He's explaining what Zionism is. He says, quote, "To be a goy was the dominant theme of Zionist philosophy in the formative period." That means what the Zionists wanted, the dominating yesod of Zionism was to be a goy. The idea was so forceful, so strong, that it united all the warring factions and parties, because amongst the Tzionim there were all sorts of disagreements. On everything else, Zionists disagreed. Territorialists, they didn't want Eretz Yisrael, they wanted maybe Uganda, right? And then there were practical Zionists, then there was labor Zionism, then there was the right-wing Zionism. One was more fascist, one was more communist. Even the very basic idea of a Jewish state did not escape dispute, and much doubt was cast on its soundness and practicality. Not every Tzioni wanted a Medina. They said, it's going to be hard to get a Medina. If we get it, who says we can keep it? There'll be wars. We don't need a Medina. One idea, one craving, one urge enjoyed a veritable consensus. One thing was l'chol hadeyas, according to all Tzionim, to be a new people, to escape the role that history imposed on the Jews, to become, in Herzl's word, a wondrous breed of Jews which will spring forth from the earth. That means, what is he saying? All the meflogos and organizations, Mehayimin to the Smoil, all of them, no matter what they hold, they disagree with each other about everything, but one thing they're maskim on is nationalism, that Zionism means that we have to become a new people. This is mamish. When I saw the Rebbes thing before this book, I got this book, and I sat in Shita. This is mamish, what the Rebbe is saying, the exact same thing. This is the Iker Zionism. So Mamela, Yesod number one, Zionism. If anybody says that there's a connection between the Jewish people and anything else, the Jewish rock, this rock is Jewish. It's the Jewish rock, Jewish national rock. It's Avodah Zarah. The Jewish country, that's Avodah Zarah. Jewish flag, Avodah Zarah. Jewish army, Avodah Zarah. The Jews only have one thing, Torah and mitzvahs, nothing else. If you think that there's any brotherhood amongst the Jews besides Torah, then that's Avodah Zarah. That's apikorsis. That's kfira. And if you don't believe in the Torah, you cannot believe in Klal Yisrael. If a person doesn't believe in the Torah, but he does believe that there's such a thing as the Yiddish folk, or maybe he believes in the Torah, but he says, there's also Yiddish folk. That's Zionism. That's kfir of Zionism. Now, even, not only the Agudah, as I mentioned, Reb Ruvain, Reb Elchanan, fought against Zionist nationalism, but even the Mizrachistim used to know this. In the writings of a Mizrahi Rav Moshe Avigdor Miel, his name was. He was the Mizrahi Rav of Tel Aviv, and he had a very modern derech halimud. And the Chazon Ish once saw somebody went to Chazon Ish and he saw a book on the floor covered with a towel, and the Chazon Ish said, "That's Moshe Avigdor Miel's book. It's muktzah. Don't touch it." But he said, this Moshe Avigdor Miel, that the nationalism of the Tzionim is Avodah Zarah. And don't think you're going to make the Fryer from, the Frum are going to make you, the Fry are going to make you fry. And it's an Egel Hazohov, this nationalism. And don't think that the Torah is only totally in Eretz Yisrael. Forget about Medina, Eretz Yisrael. Because Hashem is Molei Kol Haaretz K'voidai. Just the Mizrachistim, he wanted they should make a Medina to make a safe place for Jews. And Grada, the Mizrachistim, Rhinus, was willing to take Uganda. Because if your whole tachlis is just to make a safe place for Jews, what's a chilek? Palestine, Uganda, Adrab. Where they went in Eretz Yisrael is the most dangerous place. Uganda would be a much better idea. The Fruma Tzionim wanted Uganda. It was Herzl that said, no. It's bad for marketing. You'll never get the Jews to jump into Zionism unless you say Eretz Yisrael, Kedushas Eretz Yisrael, they understand Eretz Yisrael. It's a marketing thing. But even the Mizrachistim knew this. That this business, and today, Bisman Hazeh, you know what happened? It wasn't the Mizrachistim that made the national. Today you have these nationals, they call them Dati Leumi, Rebbe Chanan says, and Rebbe Ruben Grozovsky too. Mamish the same words. That since nationalism, Lumius is Avodah Zarah, religious nationalism is Shituf. It's Avodah Zarah mixed with Avodah Hashem, that's all it is. And today you have them all over the place. The settlers, those crazy people, the Kahanis, the Misnachlim, that they hold that no, the land is it's from the pagans. The land has the physical land has a connection to you, and it's your identity, and everything. The army is the Jewish army, and the holy. Where did this? You know who did this? This idea of nationalism. There were Jews even amongst the Mizrahi that liked nationalism. It was an attractive thing. But there was the one man who did a very bad thing. He did the worst thing possible. He not the pshat, he matted nationalism. He said, nationalism, that's Yiddishkeit. Rabbi Abraham Isaac Cook. He was the one that, not the Mizrahi, it was him. He was the one that said, he took Goyish and nationalist philosophy. Mamish from the Goyim. Remember what I told you from Aaron David Gordon? He says the same thing. It's the exact same thing. That, you know, this business of, that's the Friar, the Goyim came up with this idea. There's something called the Ruach HaUmah, the spirit of the nation. Every nation has a spirit. By me, America has a spirit. America's America, has a culture, but there's a Ruach, like almost like a neshama to a nation. Like we said, that people are not only Eivorim, the nation is the guf. So he took that and he said, Klal Yisrael is an am like all the nations too, and they also have a Ruach HaUmah. And the Ruach HaUmah of Klal Yisrael is the Rebbeinu Shalom. Mamela, if you are getrai to the Klal Yisrael, that means you're getrai to the Rebbeinu Shalom. If you are koifer apikairis and you machal Shabbos v'hesi and you're over on kol ha'tarakula. No, the Ummah is connected, and the Ruach HaUmah is Hashem. This is Mamash Yair Lapid's words. The Ruach HaUmah is Hashem, and Mamela, whoever works for the Ummah is working for Hashem even if he doesn't know it. This is Mamash's Torahs when the Rebbe writes that he saw the Cook's books. And he saw Shrek L'Chazach, and I don't know what he saw, but I can just, we can forestellen, it could be any of these things. Just imagine. He said that if you're a Apikoris, but you work for the Tchiyas HaUmah, another word he got from the Goyim, Tchiyas HaUmah, the Tchiyas HaUmah, your nefesh is higher than the nefesh of Shloimei Amunei Yisrael who aren't Tzionim. Now, if you're Apikoris and you're not a Tzioni, then you're stam fan Apikoris fui, like any other Apikoris. But if you're Apikoris and you're also a Tzioni, then your nefesh is higher than the Shloimei Amunei Yisrael. Why? Because the Am, it's the Am, Klal Yisrael is the Am, and Hashem is connected to them, not the Pshat. See, we know that we have to be connected to Hashem in order to be connected to Klal Yisrael. By him is Bakert. The nationalism was, if you're connected to the Am, that means you're connected to Hashem, even if you don't know it. And more than that, remember we said that the Am has a personality, Azah? So he also said that the Am has a personality. This is from a Goyish philosopher, Hegel, his name was. The nations have a personality, and they actually do things, and history does things. We know history is just, what happened in the past, Meisim. No, this philosophy says history actually does things. And the players in this grand plan are not the people, they're the nations. The people are just the fingers. And also, Klal Yisrael is one of these nations that is doing things as a nation. And Mamela, all that is the Avodas Hashem. And Mamela, if you are working for the nation, that makes you connected to Hashem. And listen, before him, our religion was very simple. You do mitzvahs, it's good. You do averis, it's bad. The mitzvahs, Kiddush Hashem. Averis, Chil Hashem. He turned the whole thing upside down. No! There's something called, and it's all from not the Pshat, he looked in the Torah, and even he was Megal upon him, the Torah Shloik HaLacha. Even that he couldn't do. Because there was no Torah to be Megal upon him, Shloik HaLacha, that says such things like this. Nobody knows where he got this stuff from. There's a Chuvas Sheiris Yosef, a Svardi in Yerushalayim in those days, Rabbi Yosef Yedid, and he has a tshuva on Cook. It's called Binyan HaPikoyer Shetzorach Limchois Alav. And he says, look, I don't know what's with him, maybe him himself, maybe he was possessed by a shade, he has crazy ideas, I don't know what's going on with the Gavra. But his stuff is mamish, it's where did he calls him the Navi. Because where did he get this stuff? You know, if a guy wants to be Megal upon him, a Torah Shloik HaLacha, so we know he took this Torah, it was Megal upon him, Shloik HaLacha. But here we're talking about mamish, it's not even Megal upon him, a Torah, it's just took the mamish word for word, the Goyish stuff, put it in nice Lashon HaKodesh, and now people think it's Kabbalah, it's this, because nobody knows what it is. Nobody knows what it is. It must be Kabbalah, right? It's Kabbalah. No, Shtusim V'Havolim. His own son, Tzvi Yehuda, wrote to a big anti-Semitic Zionist, Yosef Chaim Brenner, his name was, that two of his father's drushes were based on the essays of certain Gevissa Goyish philosophers. It's all from the Goyim, that's all it is. That's the nationalism. He's responsible, not the Mizrahi. The Mizrahi's bad enough. They still want to be Mischaber and Mershoyim. They wanted to make a Medina against the Shalosh Shvuos. We'll get there. But the idea, this nationalism that got faflanced in Klal Yisrael, not only do you say it's mutter, this is Yiddishkeit. And Mamela, all the Friar Tzionim, they loved him because this was their crazy philosophy. He did this. So, they had a plan. They had a reason. They had a reason why they wanted to do this. Why did the Tzionim want to do this? What did they gain by it? Well, in those days was the first days after people got freedom of religion, and the Jews had a lot of more rights that they didn't have previously, and a lot of people wanted to be free. Either cause of reform, assimilation, whatever. They were free. And they had a problem. The problem was anti-Semitism. And they held that the reason the Goyim hate the Jews is because of us. Just look at us. We don't look like Goyim. We don't think like Goyim. That's why the Goyim hate us. If we would be more like the Goyim would love us. So first they tried assimilating, but it didn't work. Because in 1881 in Russia there were a lot of pogroms, and the assimilated ones were the victims of the pogroms even just as much as the Frum. So they said, no. You know why? We're not goyish enough. Now really, when Hashem does this, Hashem is telling them assimilation is bad. Go back to the Torah. They said assimilation is good, but it's not good enough. That's why we're suffering. We need to assimilate not only as individuals, the whole Am needs to assimilate. We have to take ganz Klal Yisrael and make them assimilated. How do we do that? Nationalism. Let's get the Jews to think like Goyim. Now, it wasn't easy. See, Jews have hashkafas that are different than the Goyim. Hashkafa number one. We're an Am because of the Torah, not because of anything else. Hashkafa number two, we don't fight wars in Golus. We do like Yaakov Avinu, we bow our heads to the Goyim, and therefore we're safe. Klal Yisrael survived for thousands of years. Everybody says it's a nest. And of course it is, but it's only a nest because we have the instructions from Hashem. Hashem said when Yaakov met Esav, right? Yaakov bowed to Esav. That's the way Klal Yisrael did in Golus. Or Chazal learned Parshas Vayishlach before they met the Goyim. They hated that Tzionim. They said, what are you, crazy? What are you, crazy? People are going to kill you. You got to be strong. They're not going to respect you if you bow. And the mamish didn't understand. It's not even so hard to understand. You see, Hashem said this is how we're going to survive. You know, if you're swimming in the ocean and a shark comes, so from what I see, I'm not a big expert, but you're supposed to hit the shark as hard as you can, and then maybe he'll leave you alone. But if you meet a bear in the woods, you're not supposed to punch him. You're supposed to play dead, and then he'll leave you alone, hopefully. It depends what type of animal you meet. You have different strategies. By Yidden and Goyim also there's different strategies. One guy to another guy. Esav got a bracha al charva chosichya. Whoever has stronger swords wins. But Yidden didn't get that bracha. We don't win wars by swords. We win wars like grizzly bears. Either by, the Ramban says, either doirim, or prepare for milchama. The Ramban says prepare for milchama means run away. It doesn't mean, see in English, let's see how it works in Yiddish. In English, when you say b'meichin la milchama, it could mean prepare for war. This means bring your gun. Or it could mean prepare for a war. That means bring your passport. Because the word could be translated too. B'meichin la milchama, either for war, start war, or there's a war coming, run away. The Ramban says that's what it means, run away. It's very simple, and we win. And even when we fought wars, you know the story with Reb Chaim? I don't even have time to say it, but I'm going to anyway, because it's so important. About when Klal Yisrael's wars. There's a story with Reb Chaim Briska. Reb Baruch Ber said it over. Reb Chaim was the days of the Maskilim. And the Maskilim made a play to make Litzanis from the Fruma Yidden. They always did this. And the play was a Milchama. And the Meshuach Milchama came there. And he said, okay, we're making a Milchama. Who wants to come to the Milchama? And I don't know, thousands of people came. He says, but whoever got married, let's go home. People go home. Whoever built a house, go home. Whoever's scared of war, go home. Whoever soch ben tefillah letefillah, go home. Some seif. Only two people are left. The Chafetz Chaim and Reb Chaim Briska. And they're there. And that was the end of the stuk play. And it was a latzonos, and they were laughing. They ran to Reb Chaim and said, Reb Chaim, we have to answer. What do we say? So Reb Chaim said, let me see the script. So he looked at it, and he said, when he said, go home, the people who built houses, very good. This is true. This is good. You know what? Everything here is good. It's right, except for one thing they left out. We won the war. That's how Klal Yisrael won wars. Now they didn't have stronger armies. It was all Shaloi al Pi Derech HaTeva. That's all it was. We won with Schusim, nothing else. The Tzionim hated that. Schusim, what Schusim? When Schusim? No! Hishtadlus. Now, Hishtadlus, we know the Maharsha says, everybody knows this, that there's no such thing as Hishtadlus when it comes to Klal Yisrael as a whole. An individual is Schar Mitzvah B'Hayal Moleko. But Klal Yisrael as a whole only works with Schar V'Oinish. They get what they deserve. No, there's Schar and Oilam Hazeh for Klal Yisrael as a whole. Yeah. They hated that. The Tzionim hated another thing. They hated the fact that by us, Freya, Koifrim, they're not part of Klal Yisrael. If we're brothers, we're a nation. Of course we're part of Klal Yisrael. The goals of the Tzionim were to knock out these hashkafas, knock them out of Klal Yisrael, make Klal Yisrael normal, like Goyim, like anti-Semites. Be normal. Jews didn't want a country. Napoleon offered the Jews a Medina. Jews could have had countries all over the place. Even near Buffalo, there was a place. There was a Rabbi Noah that wanted to make Medina around St. Lawrence River, I think it was, near Buffalo. And they said, no, there's Shalosh Shvus, you can't make a Medina, even outside of Eretz Yisrael. But they hated this. What do you mean? You don't want to be independent? You want to be always under the Goyim? You're not normal. They looked at us, not normal. They wanted to rise out of the Jewish people, these hashkafas. How do you do it? I'll tell you how. Here's their plan. Chaim Brisker said, a moiridik of art. He said, they don't want to shmad Yidden in order to make a Medina. They need to make a Medina in order to shmad Yidden. The Medina was not the end goal of Zionism. The end goal of Zionism was that the Yidden should tear out those hashkafas and change their ideas. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to make the Jews think like a regular nation. We're going to give them a country. We're going to give them an army. It's going to be their army. All the Jews will think it's their army. All the Jews will look at the country as their country. We're going to give them a language. They're all going to look at it a common language. And when the Jews have all of this, they'll start looking at themselves psychologically as a nation, a political nation. And what's going to be? Well, right now we are a religion. Religions have goals. Torah, mitzvahs. Nations also have goals. Win gold medals. Nobel Prizes, have a nice national anthem, win song contests, Olympics, strong army, and that's what's going to happen to Klal Yisrael. When we give these equipment, national equipment to the Jews, they'll start maybe 1 year, 10 years, 100 years. The Jews will start looking at themselves like a Goyish nation. And when Israel wins an Olympic gold medal, the Yidden in New York will be proud. Oh, Yidden, now we can win gold medals. Avodah Zarah, because you connected the Jews to some country over there. The Jews, when Israel wins a Nobel Prize, the Jews will brag. Israel won a Nobel Prize. Israel has a Mossad. Israel is strong. All these things. Well, I'm an American. What do I have to do with some stupid country in the Middle East? The Teretz says, no. You're one Am. They're your country. It's your nation. It's your this. That's the Avodah Zarah of Zionism. That's what they wanted. That was the goal of Zionism. Now, until now, we've been speaking only about Zionism, Zionism. Let's talk about Zionists. There's a Maisa with the Rebbe in 1955 in Montreal. He went to Montreal for Chanukas Habayis in Nusach Beis Medrash. The chief rabbi of Montreal then was darshaning, and he wanted to darshan something in honor of Satmar. So here's what he said. He said, in days of the Chasam Sofer, there was a machlokes regarding the Talmud. Says the Litvische and Polish Gedolim wanted to be together with the bad Jews to make them better. And the Hungarians wanted to separate with them. And it was a machlokes between the Gedolim. And this was the machlokes in the Torah between Avram and Sarah, whether to throw out Yishmael. And Avram held like the Gedolim of Poland and Litva. Let's keep him, we'll make him better. And Sarah held like the Gedolim of Hungary, and Hashem Paskins like the Gedolim of Hungary, and that was his shtickle toy. The Rebbe got up, he interrupted him, and he says, Chas v'sholom, there was no such machlokes. And then he motioned for him to continue, and he sat down. Then the Rebbe went over to him and said, first of all, you got your history war, and it was the days of the Maram Shik, not the Chasam Sofer. Second of all, when did the Jews say not to separate from the Rishoyim? In the days of Shapsi Tzvi, in the days of the Tzedukim, there is no machlokes b'chlal such a thing. Now you should know, if you take a look in the Sefer Mishnah Rabbi Aaron Kotler on Chumash, Parshas Toldos, Rabbi Aaron has a shtickle Torah like this. Yitzchak and Rivka had a machlokes, what to do with Esav. Yitzchak wanted to keep him because he held that he's going to be in Amoretz. He'll take care of like the Gashmias for Yaakov Avinu, his brother. He'll be makar of him, and he'll have his place in Klal Yisrael. Rivka held, no, we got to throw him out. The Rebbeinu Shalom Paskin like Rivka, throw him out. This is Baron Kotler. So clearly the rabbi was wrong about the Litvish Gedolim, but I want to tell you a secret that no suffix in my mind that this is the story, the backstory behind a certain piece in the Divrei Yoel in Nosai. You read this piece without knowing this story. This piece, I think, was said in 1959. But you read this piece without knowing the story, you're not going to understand what the Rebbe is talking. Here's what he says. Hine b'yomav shel hamaram shik koisa hachluka hayedu b'medinas Ungarin sheispardu v'nechlaku legamri min haposhim v'hi she'omdo lahem she'nishru shloimei amunei Yisrael v'hayoy malizim al zois toiras Ungarin avol ha'emes shezehu toiras shleima k'maimorim al tischaber l'rosha v'gam b'medinas Poland rotzu kol hatzadikim lasos chaluka zurak shebetchila adayin lo yehoye b'zeh kol kach hefrach b'medinasam V'achakach kishkvar dibru mimenu lo yehoye b'afshori lo yitzil apoyel machmas hador zebor b'lishon sofik. That's mamish the whole thing, including the last part that he told that chief rabbi in the stories. This is mamish what he's referring to. The idea, one of the things the Zionists wanted was to make sure that koifrim and apikorsim are considered equal members of the Jewish people. Because if you're Greek and you don't believe in the Avodah Zarah Zeus, you're less of a Greek. You're a Greek, you just don't believe in the religion. So the Jews have a religion, you don't believe in it, but you're an equal Jew, because the Jew is a nationality. And they said one of the main goals of Zionism is that Koifrim and Apikorsim should be considered part of Klal Yisrael. Even the Rebbe all over the place. Zionists, no, they're not part of Klal Yisrael. And this was not his Shita yet either. We didn't even come close to his Shita, the Rebbe's Shita, because the Agudah said this too. Rabbi Grozovsky and Boyes Hazman said, Chalila v'Chalila, anybody should think that we say differently. Not only is an Apikoris not part of Klal Yisrael, he's not even called Zera Avram, he has a raya. He's not even called Zera Avram. The Rebbe also brings that from the Chuvas HaRashba, as Mizera Ruchin, V'Shedin, V'Leilin. But he's not even Zera Avram. Everybody agrees to this. Not the Mizrachistin. Now we're getting a little... The Mizrachistin had a different Shita, but the Agudistin, they agreed with this too. There was no machloikis at all between the Rebbe and these other Gedolim regarding Zionists and Zionism. Zionism is Avodah Zarah, it's the nationalism. Zionists, Koifrim, are not part of Klal Yisrael. There's nothing to discuss. Nobody, I'm not talking to the Mizrachistim, they're already out at this point. But from the Agudah, nobody disagreed with this. Now, let's talk about Medina. Here's where things get interesting. The Zionists wanted to make a Medina in order to help their Shmad. Because if the Jews have a Medina, they'll start thinking that's the Jewish Medina. And it's going to be very, very good for the Tzionim because the Jews will support it. They'll look at it like their country. Anybody who's against it will be accused of being an anti-Semite. Will be accused of being an anti-Semite. Jews will support it from all over. They'll be able to influence other countries, say America. They'll be able to twist the arms of politicians to do what Israel wants, not what America wants, because the Jews are part of what I mean. We're the Jewish nation. We're not Americans. We're Americans technically, but we're Jews. That's the Am. You understand, this is terrible Hisgaris Glumois. And I want to tell you that Adolf Hitler, in his book Mein Kampf, chapter 2, when he says that Jews are not really Germans, they're another nation, he says, I'll prove it to you. Just ask the Zionists. He says, I see them, they dress differently, they this, so they look like another people, not Germans. But if you have any suffix, there's a movement among them, Zionists it's called, and they say the Jews are a nationality, and they're a nation. And even the ones that aren't Zionists are not moicha. They didn't kick them out of Klal Yisrael, so they're moida that there's a Jewish idea of being their own nation and not Germans. If they're not Germans, what are they doing here? Kick them out. Kick them out. Are the Jews part? And there was no Medina then. Stell sich vor today, where the Goyim say the Jews carrying around Israeli flags in the Beis Medrash, they celebrate Yom HaAtzmaut, Hey or more than the 4th of July. And a guy like Jonathan Pollard, the spy, when they asked him why he spied, he said racial imperative, meaning, what do you mean? I'm a Yid. And his wife said, we have no charata because we did the right thing as Zionists and Jews. We have to swear in. Israel's our country. Sakonas nefashos. Lamish sakonas nefashos. So Hitler didn't even have a Medina. that went around saying that they're the Jewish state. But there's such a thing as Zionism. This is what the Zionists want. But there's a problem with a Medina, even without Zionism, and that is, it's a fakert, it's a violation of the Gzeres HaGolus of the Sholosh Shavuos. Sholosh Shavuos, for those, anybody who doesn't know, the Rabbi Shloim made a Gzeir, we're in Golus, and this Gzeres HaGolus means we're mechuyev to be all over the world. Ad Kedei Kach, the Ritva says that the mitzvah, the Aveira, that you're not allowed to live in Mitzrayim doesn't apply in Golus, because the Gzeres HaGolus says Jews have to live all over the world. It means even in Mitzrayim. That's a big chiddush. You could have a Golus even if the Jews aren't in Mitzrayim. Avazak the Ritva, no. Because of the Gzeres Golus, mechuyev even in Mitzrayim. Kal v'chomer, nobody's mechuyev to go to Eretz Yisrael. That's the Ritva's Shita. That in Golus there's no mitzvah of Yeshivas Eretz Yisrael. But that's a machlokes about an individual. But Klal Yisrael together, says the Gemara, there's a Gemara, Reb Zera, didn't want to go to Eretz Yisrael, and the Gemara asks, why didn't he want to go? And it says, because of the Sholosh Shavuos, and then it says, Reb Yehuda was cholik. No, he holds Sholosh Shavuos is only a collective, Shlo Yalu B'choima, that the Jews shouldn't come b'kenufia gedola, a big en masse to go to Eretz Yisrael. Number two, they're not allowed to rebel against nations. Lamoshel the Aruch HaShulchan and Choshen Mishpatzim and Beis brings the second of the Shavuos and says if the Jews, let's say in New York, want to make a revolution, we want to make self-determination and make New York ours, you're not allowed because of the Sholosh Shavuos. And the third one, Shlo Yidchaku Es HaKetz. I don't have time to explain the Geoine Shapshat that the Rebbe says in Rashi, but you look at Ve'el Moshe, you'll see it. And obviously, these Sholosh Shavuos are making a Medina. Now, this also is not the Rebbe's Shita. Can somebody tell me someone who was cholik on this? I'm not talking about the Mizrachistim. So let me tell you something. Rav Yosef Eliyahu Henkin, who's Talmud of the Aruch HaShulchan, he was a big Litvish Aposik. He says, he speaks a lot about the Sholosh Shavuos. He says, first of all, this is why the Holocaust, World War II came. It was a einish for being over on the Sholosh Shavuos. When the Tzionim were in England, they made revolutions to get a Medina, and there was the Bolsheviks, all of these Bar Yonim, he said. They call it, this is a Mefurish Gemara. The Gemara says that the punishment for being over on the Sholosh Shavuos, Animates B'Sochem, Kitzavoisu Kailas Asada, the Rebbe says that's the worst. Oynish and Kol Torah Kula means there's going to be a Holocaust. Simply like that. The Rebbe says also the Holocaust came because of the Tzionim. The Chazon Ish said the same thing. David Shmidl heard it from him, and there are other places too who heard it from him. If you look at the Holocaust, and you look in the Torah, and you look in Kol Torah Kula, you see what matches it. There's only one thing in the Torah that matches it. Animatus B'Sochem Kitzavoisu Kailas Asada, mamish what it was. And it's no coincidence that this is mamish what they were over. But he says that says the Tzionim held that the Sholosh Shavuos aren't Nageya because, I'll give you his reason shortly. But he says, Roy Gedol Yisrael didn't hold like that. They held you're over on the Sholosh Shavuos by making Medina finish, end of story. Now when he says Roy, I don't know any miyut either. I think he's saying Roy because, like the Rebbe says also, Lagabe Roy, that you always say Roy because you never know 100%, it's called. But I don't know anybody that said differently. The Aguda, there's a Shita, there's the Avnei Nezer that says that if it's the going up to Eretz Yisrael is done peacefully, so then you're not over on Shloyalu B'Choima. But the Avnei Nezer, like the Rebbe says, it never said you're allowed to make a state. That would be the Chikas HaKetz. And two, this is very important. This was not, the Tzionim have this Meshuggah Nezach, where they say the United Nations gave the Yidden, the Tzionim, the Medina, Shtus in the Havolim. First of all, see, usually, when when people make a bad taina or a taina in bad faith, there's usually going to be two problems with it. One, it's not true. And two, even if it is true, it's not negaya anyway. So both of those things are true over here. Number one, it's not true. The United Nations doesn't give anybody any land. You can't give somebody something unless you own it. The United Nations doesn't give anybody anything. They did not give them. There was a vote in the General Assembly, and it was recommended that they should have give it to the Tziyonim. It did not even go to the Security Council, which was supposed to, so it's not even official. It was only a recommendation. They don't give anything. But more importantly, let's say the United Nations wanted to, we learned in yeshiva, in the Hakdama to Chiddush Reb Shlomo Hayman, the yohrtzeit, that when Rabbi Kivega says Tzorchiyun, it's shver. When he says Tzorchiyun Godel, it's more shver. When he says Hashem Yoreinai, it's even more shver. And if you understand the kasha, that's a Tzorchiyun, and you think it's a Tzorchiyun Godel or the Fakert, you don't fully understand the kasha. And the Rebbe is mechuyev to say Tzorchiyun Godel if it's Tzorchiyun Godel, and Tzorchiyun if it's Tzorchiyun. In that spirit, I have to say that this thing from the Tziyonim is stupid. I mean, it's stupid. Well, the Arabs, what's the difference if China or Bulgaria says we vote that the Jews should get a Medina? It says Loyalu Bachoyma, they can't do it. Biyad Chazok, if the Arabs don't want, the Arabs are going to fight. You have to fight to get in there. What's the difference if China says you can go in? It was still Biyad Chazok. End of story. The Rebbe says this. And it's not just the Rebbe who says this. I want to read you something. Everybody knows that before the Medina was around, the Aguda, the Rabbonim in the Aguda had a vote about what should they do about a Medina. And the bigger ones, the greater Gedolim, Rabbi Kotler, Buchanan Wasserman, said you're not allowed to make a Medina, even if it's from, because it's Kfir and Bias Mashiach. There are others that said that you can. And Yaakov Rosenheim, he was one of the big Askanim in the Aguda then. He wrote a letter that said that we know that the Gedolim only meant that you can do it if the Arabs are maskim. If the Arabs are not maskim, then you're over on the Sholosh Shvuos, L'chol Hadeyos. And Shuvra, you see in a book that Rosenheim wrote regarding the Aguda concerning a policy on Eretz Yisrael, he says the following. He says, the Allied nations, especially England and the United States, will not be able to shirk their duty to force both Jews and Arabs to meet at a roundtable conference in order to come up with an exact constitutional form which will be favorable to both nations, meaning they're mechuyev, the nations, the Goyim, the US, England, they're mechuyev to make a zitzung by the Jews and the Arabs, and everybody should be maskim. Because if not, in deference to the solemn oath imposed upon the Jewish people by our Talmud for the entire period of Golus, and also because of the realistic political considerations, we firmly reject any reference to military power in relations between Jews and Arabs. If there has to be fights between Jews and Arabs, it's against the Sholosh Shvuos, and we are not maskim. Only if the Arabs are maskim. Even they were maskim that the creation of the Medina was against the Sholosh Shvuos and is subject to that terrible punishment. Now, why don't people talk about it? So there's a problem. Reb Reuven Grozovsky writes in Boyas Hazman, we don't want to talk about the Sholosh Shvuos because people won't be makabel. Better we should talk about, people want to think that the Medina is a Yeshua, whatever. So better speak about how the Tziyonim are Rishonim. There were those with Blazer Gordon, tells the Rav, 1904 wrote a tshuva about how the Medina is going to be against the Sholosh Shvuos. And he says, even if the Yidden don't want to understand the Shvua that the Rebbeinu Shalom said, Shlo Yalu B'choyma, at least, L'chol HaPochos, let them understand what a Rasha Herzl is and what Malshinas he said against the Jews. Reb Reuven, Reb Blazer Gordon, everybody said that you can't talk about this, so they didn't talk much. Now we have a big problem. They're ready to make a Medina. It's against the Sholosh Shavuos. It's the biggest oynish in the Torah. It's Ma'akev the Geula the Rebbe brings in the Hakdama. I don't know anybody that disagrees with this amongst Gedolei Yisrael. Even recently, Reb David Soloveitchik, the brisker of son, said the reason why people in Israel get killed so much, Nebuch, and nobody cares. He said, nobody cares, people in Israel get killed, tomorrow's another day, it's normal. He says, because of the Sholosh Shavuos, and Imatios Basochem Ketzavoisu Kailos Asodeh. Reb Don Segel said, when there was Nebuch, that terrible terrorist attack in the Merkaz Harav Yeshiva, he said, it's oynish for the Sholosh Shavuos. Everybody knows about this. But if nobody wants to talk about it, nobody wants to be makabel, we are in big trouble. Came a man, Rabbeinu HaKadosh Satmar Rebbe, and he said, listen, nobody wants to talk about this, I know. In fact, it's worse than that. The Sholosh Shavuos are in a worse position than just nobody wants to hear. Nobody learns them. It's not anybody's fault. As he brings in the Hakdama, it was never Nagei Lamaisa, Kemat, 1,000 years gaps. It's not Nagei, things that are not Nagei. People don't learn. The Gemara about Eliyahu Novi, Malakain Bebeis HaKvaros, even somebody that has Eliyahu Novi come to him, if he doesn't learn something, because it's not Lamaisa, he's not going to know it. And if it's not Lamaisa, we don't learn it. He brings 3 rayos from a Chayvis Alvavis, from the Gemara Malakain Bebeis HaKvaros, and from a Tshuva. That if the things that are not Nagei Lamaisa, people don't learn, and it's not Nagei Lamaisa. Worse than that, nobody learned the Sugya. There is no Sugya. Where is the Sugya, the Sholosh Shavuos? Is there Masechta called Masechta Sholosh? There is a Sugya in Ksubis. But it's Nagei much more than just that Gemara. It's Nagei things in Kol HaTorah, Midrashim, Reb Chaim Vital, all sorts of things. And nobody put together anything. So you don't really have a Shulchan Aruch of the Sholosh Shavuos. It's something that wasn't learned like in 1,000 years, Kemat nothing. Mamela, nobody knows much about it. And nobody even wants to hear. So I said, Satmar Chasidim, you don't know what you had. So comes the Satmar Rebbe and says, I have a friend in Satmar, Wolf Katz. He used to be a Rebbe in the Yeshiva Chafetz Chaim in Manhattan, a Litvish yeshiva. And Reb Mendel Zaks, who was the yeshiva, was the Chafetz Chaim Zaydim, who was my Shver's Rebbe in Radin. My Shver was Talmud of the Chafetz Chaim, but the Chafetz Chaim didn't give shir. He had Magidei shir. And Reb Mendel Zaks was my Shver's Magid shir. He was a member of the Agudas Moyetzes Gedolei Torah. Wolf Katz gave the Veil Moshe to Reb Mendel Zaks to see. So Mendel Zaks said, he came back, he said the same thing everybody else said, in different words. He said, it's not the pshat, he knows Kol HaTorah Kula. He said in Yiddish, beherrscht Kol HaTorah Kula. It means, he said, that if you have a guy who goes into a grocery store, so he wants to know where the soup is. So he could find the soup, he asks, where's the soup? Looks on the signs. Then there's a guy who comes in with his eyes closed. He knows already the soup is here, this is here. Had Kol HaTorah Kula on his fingertips where he knew where everything is. You're talking about Shas, Midrashim, Shemu Shemayim, Arayas from a Kasha, from a Radak in Yeshaya. Radak es a Kasha, so Vaistois, mashma something from the Kasha. Mamish Kol HaTorah Kula. He had it on his fingertips. Nigla and Nister. And he said, you know what, I don't care what people want to hear. And he said, one day people are going to want to hear. In the Hakdam, he says, one day, I'm telling you, could very well be. Even though people don't want to hear now, one day maybe people will want to hear. Between me and you. I tell you from experience. From 40 years ago to today, people want to hear much more today. Because Israel, in the 50s and the 60s, everybody loved it. They didn't have any misnagdim amongst the Goyim except the Arabs. Nobody was against them. After 1967, when the whole thing with the territory started, 1977, when the militants, Menachem Begin and his chevra got into office, then people started hating Israel. But before that, in the 50s, everybody loved Israel. Now, people are more Yidden also. I know a Yid, personally, a Baal Tshuva, was at Kolzman, he wasn't from. He wanted nothing to do with Yiddishkeit because he associated Yiddishkeit with Israel, and nobody likes Israel. And then when he found out that there are Yidden in New York that protest against Israel, that are against Zionism, he said, maybe I should find out about Yiddishkeit. And today he's learning in Koilel. He's a young man learning in Koilel. And it's not only him, there are plenty like that. It's the worst thing for the Jew reputation of the Jews is Israel Bisman Hazeh. And he said, I'm going to do it. And there are 3 times in history such a thing was done, as far as I know. If somebody can find the 4th, I'll be makritov. Where somebody took a sugya that didn't exist because it was spread throughout Kol HaTorah and he put it together. Number 1, the Ramban writes a letter to the Rabbanim of France praising the Rambam. And one of the things he says, the Rambam did a great thing. He made such a thing, Hilchos Tshuva. Before the Rambam, everybody knew there was such a thing as Tshuva, but where would you find the halachas? Is there a Perik in Shas that has Tshuva? Is there a Masechta? The Rambam went to Kol HaTorah and he made a Hilchos Tshuva. And the Ramban praises him for that. The second time, the Chafetz Chaim did Hilchos Lashon Hara. Everybody knew there was such a thing as Lashon Hara. But if you wanted to learn Hilchos Lashon Hara, where would you go? Chafetz Chaim did it. The third time was when the Rebbe made the halachas of the Chikas HaKetz of the Shalosh Shavuos. It wasn't only Gans Shas and Mitroshim, Nigla Nister, and Lashon Hara. The difference is, though, that Lashon Hara and Tshuva was Nagei Lamaisa, so people did learn it. The Shalosh Shavuos wasn't Nagei Lamaisa, so people didn't learn it. And if a person wants to know the Shalosh Shavuos, he has to come on to the Rebbe. I'll give you a mashal. So the Rav Roshi of Israel, the Sfardi, the Chacham Ovadia Yosef, has a Shaila Tshuva about giving away the shtochim. Are you allowed to give away the shtochim? So it's Avadi, you're allowed to give away the shtochim. If it's a snageya to make peace, of course. As the Ramban says, there's a mitzvah bisman hazeh to conquer Eretz Yisrael. He says it's not true because of the Shalosh Shavuos. The Rashbash, who's anical of the Ramban, says even in the Ramban there's no such thing. Nobody holds Lamaisa Bisman Hazeh as a mitzvah to conquer Eretz Yisrael. Because the Shalosh Shavuos, he says so. There's a chief rabbi, it's Chacham Ovadi. Then he says, but in Reb Chaim Vital, state that the Shalosh Shavuos are only nagei 1,000 years. Well, what's he going to do now? It's a Kabbalah thing, Reb Chaim Vital. Now it's not, there's no Chuvas Rashbash to quote. So he says, go look in Vayel Moshe, and you'll see that Reb Chaim Vital doesn't mean that. There's no other address to go. The Rebbe took from everywhere, and he made a sugya that didn't exist. Now, so far, as you can see, the Shalosh Shavuos also wasn't the Rebbe's Chiddush, and this is a big problem because people think that it was part of it was done purposely. That only the Satmar Rebbe, only Satmar hold from the Shalosh Shavuos. A lot of this was done by a Yid, his name was Menachem Kasher, who wrote he was a big Tzioni. He was, and in his book, Hatzkufa HaGdoila, so there are a lot of ziyufim, terrible things. He has like statements from Rabbanim that they signed on a certain date, that the Medina is Aschalta de Geula. The problem is, a lot of the Rabbanim never heard of this settle that they signed. One of them was even dead, B'Shas Maisa, when he was supposed to have signed. What happened was, he sent a letter to all these people, said, if you're not Moicha, I'll put your name on the Kol Koreh. And this guy wasn't Moicha because he was dead. So he couldn't be Moicha. And not only that, but he changed the Lashon of the Kol Koreh. He never even said Aschalta de Geula when he sent it out. It was a big Zayfen. Agrad, I want to tell you that I saw, he wrote also a big encyclopedia on Chumash Torah Shlema. The Rebbe had it. I saw it in 500 Bedford Avenue on the second floor in the Swarmstein. And he got it, not the whole set, volume by volume, because the old volumes were older and then they got newer and newer. And in the old volumes, it said, by Menachem and Mendel Kasher, Kuf Aleph Shinai and Reish, Then later he dropped Mendel, he became more Israeli, so he's just Menachem Kasha, and then he started spelling Kasha, Chof Shin Reish. So you see, as he became a Tzioni, the first volume say, Rosh Yeshiva Sfas Emes B'Yerushalayim, he was a Gerach Chassid, and at the end you see how he became. And I heard from somebody that the Rebbe said that the Bekiyas is nice, he was a big bucky, but the Parish is dry. But this guy, this Menachem Kasha, who I heard the Brisker Rov would not even look at, he was responsible that, he said, everybody, even the Aguda, holds the Tziyonim, it's only Satman and Turei Karta, not that way. He was a Gerach Chassid. And a lot of this was done specifically, it's like saying that only the Chafetz Chaim holds you're not allowed to speak Lashon Hara. Somebody today asked me, why is it that from all the Gedolim, the Satmar Rebbe was the one that screamed about Zionism? Okay, it's a fair question. Rabbi Victor Miller answers. He says because he had more courage. Everybody else is scared. But I would question the questioner. Nobody asks why the Chafetz Chaim was the only one that screamed about Lashon Hara. Nobody would say, well, Chafetz Chaim, nobody holds from Lashon Hara, only the Chafetz Chaim, nobody else. Every God will have their thing. But they want to make believe that Tziyonim, that only the Satmar Rebbe held the Medina is also because of the Sholosh Shavuos. Not only is it also, but it's even also to exist because of the Sholosh Shavuos. I know that people say b'shem the Stipler, that the Stipler said in his Sefer Kayona the Igarta that it was also to make the Medina because of the Sholosh Shavuos. He's talking about voting. We'll get there shortly. But to have the Medina is not against the Sholosh Shavuos. A Tzioni said that. And I saw an article in a Satmar Rebbe called Pre-Tomorrow. I don't know if they still have it. No, years gone. Okay, many years, like 30 years ago. I remember Pre-Tomorrow had a white and green cover where somebody in Satmar wrote a whole article and he understood the Stipler saying this too. It's not what the Stipler says. The Stipler is talking about voting. And the Stipler says that Avada, the Sholosh Shavuos, it's Osir. The whole Medina is Osir. But when I vote, I'm not voting, whether I vote for this candidate or that candidate, the Medina still exists. So it's not Megea, the Sholosh Shavuos. But Avada, the Stipler would be moided, that if you could get rid of the Medina because of the Sholosh Shavuos, you're mechuyev to. How to do it, I don't know. A lot of things I don't know how to do. I don't know how to bring Mashiach. If I could bring Mashiach, I'd be mechuyev to too. If I get rid of the Medina, I'd probably bring Mashiach also. I just don't know how. Okay? But if you could, you should. And just to prove a point, I wrote a letter to Reb Chaim Kanievsky. And I said, your father wrote this and this and this. This is what people say. This is another pshat. Which pshat is right? He says, it's twice Lashon Achman. That was the second pshat that I said. The Stipler, everybody holds that the Medina, if it was made against the Sholosh Shavuos, it is also to exist the whole Rega V'Rega because of the Sholosh Shavuos. Nothing to discuss. It's still not the Rebbe's Shita. I'll tell you what the Rebbe did do in Vayirol Moshe, though. The first part of Vayirol Moshe is discussing the Sholosh Shavuos b'derech klal. B'derech klal. Here, take this. Right. And he discusses about how it's also to make a Medina because of the Shavuos. What he did was, so now we're talking about Medina. We're not talking about Zionim. We're not talking about Zionism. We're talking even if Rav and Abaya would make a Medina. Even the most Erlich Yidden would make a Medina. It would be against the Gzeres HaGolus and like the worst Aveira in the Torah. Worst Oynish. How do I know the Oynish is totally the Aveira? The Rambam says, Afal Pi, talk about Lashon Hara, Afal Pi, that Ein Loikin Olov, it's still a big Aveira. So you see there's a connection between the Oynish and the Aveira. You see it in a lot of places. So first he says it's Asr. What the Rebbe did was he took all the disjointed places, a little here, the Sholosh Shavuos, a little there, where's Nageya, and what he did was he put it together like a puzzle, and he made it all fit in so smoothly and perfectly. He made it all make sense. There's mysteries. The Maral says it's Yehor V'Al Yavo. How's it Shashvua Yehor V'Al Yavo? The Rashi that says Shlo B'tachnunim Yoiser Midai. The Chazon Ish said it means, a guy once came to the Chazon Ish and said, Rebbe, I only mispal for the Gula, nothing else. The Rebbe said that's Yoivran Shlo B'tachnunim Yoiser Midai. Yoivran L'Shoshus, you're not allowed to do that. But what the Rebbe did was, he took all the Shverkeiten of this sugi that nobody learned, because it wasn't Nageya, and that nobody wanted to hear about, and that is Nageya, Nigla, Nister, Midrashim, Agada, Halacha, all over the place. And he mamish put it together like a puzzle. It's not the pshat merely he was malakit, and it's not the pshat merely he answered kashas. He mamish put pieces together, that with these pieces all the dots are connected and everything makes sense. And here's what he tudoy. The moral says it's Yehoy Bial Yavar, and it's Masha from Midrashim in various different places, that the Indian of the Shvuas are not just Shvuas. What he did like this. There's the Shvuas, so put the Shvuas on the bottom. The Shvuas. What he accomplished was that he said that the Shvuas are an Indian of Kfira. Meaning that not only if you believe things could be Kfira, if you do things could also be Kfira. He brings from the Radvaz and Poiskim, if you do something, you doing things could be Yehoy Bial Yav, or even if you believe not what you're doing. And he brings rayas, not for now, Vayol Moshe is there for everybody to see, that it's Kfira. Now, that put together all the pieces of the puzzle. Why it's Yehoy Bial Yavar, why Rashi says Shlo Yagar B'tachnunim, again, that's an Arichos, look it up. I think it's the most geschmacka piece of the whole first Maimar of the Vayol Moshe. He put together a Kasha in the Gemara in Shita with the Gemara about Rabbi Bono of a Goinish shtickle, and it only works if it's. I have to tell you, I'm sorry, I can't finish helping. Bekitzer Nimritz, the Gemara in Shita is mashma that you can't make a shvua on something that's already kfira unless you find one hechatinsa that's not kfira, and then the shvua is chal on everything. There's a Gemara in Soita like that. It's mashma from a kash in the Gemara. So Rashi was, when the Gemara says Gechikas HaKetz, how could you have a shvua if it's kfira? So you have to find one little hechatinsa that being doiklik the case, meaning getting out of golus before the time, is not kfira. Where are you going to find that? I got it. Like the tefillah of Rabbi Bono, there's a certain type of tefillah that's mukruch that has to happen. What if you're mispalo? Can't be kfira, you're asking Hashem. And because of that, the gula comes. Says Rashi, he means that type of tefillah. And once you have that type of tefillah, now the shvur can be chal on everything that's kfira. So everything mamish fits in, now it's Yehoy Bial Yavar. But now, that's step 2, and I don't know anybody who would want to be cholik on that either. If face anybody would be cholik on this. Step 3 is where the Rebbes Shita comes in. Until now, everything we said was not the Rebbes Shita. This was like everybody's in agreement. Most everybody. If you find somebody that wasn't, this one was, Ruba de Ruba are. Here is the Rebbes Shita. What he did was, Shvuas, Fira, until here, nobody has a problem. The Mizrachistim have a problem, Tziyonim have a problem, Menachem Kasher has a problem. They have a lot of problems. No problem. But then what he said was, because of this, anybody that has a hishtatfus in this Medina is being hishtatf in the kfira. If it was missionaries, he says this, it was missionaries. Would anybody join the missionaries? It's mamish an act of kfira, so you're not allowed to be in the Knesset, and you're not allowed to vote. And the Bechira Sarasur. Now, I don't know, honestly, when he talks about the voting, he speaks about, there are different averas of voting versus being in the Knesset itself. Voting is l'fnei iver, being in the Knesset. It may be, I'm not sure about this, I think so, that he's saying this because in a democracy where you have votes, the government is not just the people sitting in the chairs in power. The voters are also part of the government. They're part of, we can tell the president what to do. we can vote him in, we can vote him out. In any case, whether I'm right or wrong with this theory, the voters are necessary to make the government. Without a certain amount of voters, you get, and without the government, without a certain amount of Knesset people, you can't have the laws. So first of all, anybody who's involved with the voting or the Knesset is now over on this kfira, because your mishtatef is, you did an act of kfira, an act of being involved with the show, not that you're over on the show shvuos. It's like a mesis idea. You're a shutef in the show shvuos. Here comes the bechiras, and right here is the Rebbes Shita. The Agudistim disagreed. Here, Reb Ruvain and the Stipler say, and now this is important. You know what happened over here? What happened over here was a very bad thing. There's a story, I don't know if it's true, where the Chasidim went to Chaim Moshe Grodzinski and he asked him to sign a zettel that said, speaking Lashon Hara is like eating chazan. So Chaim Moshe said, reportedly, allegedly, supposedly, that you think, Chasidim, that if I sign this zettel, it means people will stop speaking Lashon Hara? No, it means people are starting in chazan. Okay, now that doesn't mean that speaking Lashon Hara is not like eating chazan. It's just people are not always smart and they're not always good, and this is what's going to happen. What happened was a very bad thing. Because the Satmar Rebbe tied these things together, shvuos, kfir, bechiros, anybody that disagreed with this little detail, they said, no, they disagree with the whole thing. So the Rebbe Grozovsky and the Stipler both have a defense why the bechiros is mutter. We'll get there in a minute, why the Rebbe doesn't hold from it. But, so the Tzionim say, well, no, you see, the bechiros is mutter, that means Zionism is mutter. They held differently from Zionism. No. This they agree. This idea is where they disagree. Reb Ruvain says, very simple. He says, Chalila v'chalila, nobody should think that the Aguda has any less hostility, any less isnagdus to the Tzionim than in the Turei Karta. That is the Turei Karta in Eretz Yisrael. That's what he's talking about with David. Well, not. Novos. He says, Chas v'sholom. Novos. When Yaakov went to Esav, he was made for Tefillah, Doron, and Milchama. Now, Tefillah, everybody can do. But Doron and Milchama, you can't do it at the same time, right? Other Doron, other Milchama. Tefillah, you can do by both. So now, which one are you going to pick, Doron or Milchama? Well, Spencer, which would work at the time. You shut up Esav, you say psychologically, is he going to take him at Tony, give him Sheikhad? If not, you make him Milchama. He says, the only machlokes we have is that we hold Doron is a better strategy, they hold Milchama is a better strategy, but Milchama days it's Esav. Okay? Rav Shach said, Shmuel Deitch said this over, he said, I heard from Rav Shach many times, that I have no machlokes with Satmar Rebbe b'chlal about the Medina. Everything he holds about the Medina, I hold. Except one thing. Hold, if you don't vote, if you don't be part of the government, what are you going to do? You have to fight the shmad. So that's what you have to do. Reb Ruvain Grozovsky is moida that this is the default normal shita. He feels that he has to defend himself. People think that no, Satmar has to defend itself. Why? By every shita, every machloik, not every, but many times there's a glata shita and then there's a shvera shita. So who's the glata shita and the shvera shita here? So people think, because of the propaganda, that Satmar is the shvera shita and the Agud is the glata shita. Dr. Ruvain, mamish not true. It's mamish not true. He says he's moida. First of all, being in Israel says chabros and rishoyim. You be mechabed the rishoyim. Remember, we had the not Zionism, the Zionists. You're being a scholar with them. You're being mishtatef with them. What's the hector for that? And he says we are the ones that need a explanation. He says the explanation is number one. You're right. It's an aveira lishma. But the gedolim in our camp assessed. That's like Hoyros Shah. We're forced to do it. It's an aveira lishma. It is also to think that it's an achdus with the Medina. That's avodah zara, he says. It's also to think that it's a mitzvah, it's a good thing that we're in the Knesset. No, you got to go and hold in your nose because it's Bavoinesenu Harabim, and like we have to do it like a kafay shade. We have to understand that it's a terrible thing that because of our Averis, we were forced into this matzav. But what are we going to do? There's shmad. As the Brisker said, there was no heter. There was never any heter for them to go into the Knesset to get money for yeshivas or to get assets for their communities. It was only for one heter. But what are we going to do with the shmad when they come and make a vote to make the giyus of the B'nai Torah? How are you going to fight them? You have to vote them out. He says if the communists would have a government, you'd also put people in the communist government. Does that mean you're asking to the communists? Or that the communist government should exist? Or as the Chasidim said, look, if a mugger comes to me and he says, give me your wallet. And I say, all right, look, I'll give you my wallet, I'll give you my money, but let me have my car keys, let me have the pictures of my kids, right? Do I negotiate? Does that mean I'm asking, I'm a shutef in his robbery? It's an Aveira Lishma. That's a quote. Now, by the way, the Rebbe addresses this, and I want to be medayik in Lashon. A lot of times the Rebbe brings Zionistic Shitainis, like I did here. I was wondering, maybe you shouldn't even speak about Bechlal, but the Rebbe says, Rebbe did in the Hashtama, he says like the Mashal HaOruch, no. The Radak HaOruch made a Perish on Tehillim. He brought things from the Christians, and in order to show that they don't make any sense. I'm reading Sinas Tisharayas too. And he writes, Yesh Apikarshim, Hoimrim, and this and that. When he speaks about the Aveir Lishma, he says, Ein Ela El Divrei Tema. He doesn't say Apikarshim, he doesn't say this as Divrei Tema. That's what he's talking about. He says, first of all, well, let me finish first with Rabbi. But Rabbi says it's not enough. He says the Welt are dumb, Kalei Hadas, and they're going to look at us, and they're going to matter Zionism because we're in the Knesset. And they're going to say, look, they're not such against Zionism like Satmar. We have to deal with that. So says Ruvain, we're only allowed to do this al-minas. Number one, we never ever allow anybody to think. Not only we shouldn't think, nobody should think that we have any achdus with the Tzionim. Nobody should think that we're Makabel Zionism. The Medina is not Zionism, it's two different things. Nobody should think that we changed our Shita because there's a Medina. Nobody should think we are chayiv to be more machnir than even like in the Turei Kartas when we speak about the Tzionim, because we have to make sure everybody understands that we're against them and we're just as against them, or without these Tanoim, forget it. Plus, the people who are in the Knesset, it's a big sakona to be there, so they have to be big Yirei Hashem, Soinei Botza, right? So says the Satmar Rebbe, says listen, there's number one. The Saveru Lishma, he says, first of all, none of this works because you're still being mishtatif with the kfir, and none of this is a heter. But two, it's not going to work. He brings from the Stei Chemed, and also about the machine matzahs, that whenever you have a heter that's totally on conditions, on controls, at the end the controls are going to be forgotten and the heter is going to remain. So what's going to happen is, basically, that the heter is going to remain. You could be in the Knesset, and you're not going to have the conditions, you're not going to be screaming against the Tzionim. Reb Ruvain says the newspaper has to say Tzionim, it has to always shout the Tzionim, you're not going to shout them, you're not going to this, because there's a Zayet Zahara for this nationalism that it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And today, did it work? There's a mice, one of the Aguda came to the Rebbe to invite him to either a meeting of the Aguda or a convention. Hertz Frankel has one nusach, I heard from Wolf Katz, a little different nusach, but they invited him to some Aguda event. And the Rebbe said, I don't want to come. Why don't I want to come? He says, because with what the Aguda became, if I go there, I'll be the only Agudist, everybody else will be Mizrachistim. And the Briskerov said that they became Mamish, they became Tzionim in the Aguda. All of these Tanoim, all of these, and by the way, listen to this. One of the tainas the Rebbe has is that has a whole bunch of tainas on the Aguda. they signed the Declaration of Independence, which has all sorts of fear in it. First of all, they freedom of religion. They're going to make freedom of religion, which is against the Torah. They said that our nation was born here, all sorts of things. So now listen, right? Rabbi says no one's allowed to think. When Shapiro Levine got up in the Knesset and said that we have to keep the Torah, Eretz Yisrael, all this kind of things, Ben Gurion, more than once, responded, no. You guys signed the Declaration of Independence. There it says this is not a Medina of Torah, this is a secular Medina. Everybody from the communists to the Agudistan signed. All of you signed. What are you talking now? And there was no response that, well, we're only here to fight. They're there to fight. Only the Shema. There's no heter to go get money. There's no heter b'chalal unless they're fighting. There's no heter if they're not makayim the Tanoim. Ben Gurion said it more than once. And how many people Bisman Hazeh say that since the Agudas in the Knesset must be, they changed their Shita about Zionism? Rabbi said they're not allowed to let people think that. If they let them think that it's a achdus of this, it's mamish like being moidev avodah zarah. That was the Agudah Shita. The Chazon Ish told the Satmar Rebbe that he's worried not about the gzeiros of the Medina. The two nuschos, in one nusach in the Maisish and the Shariar, and have two different nuschos. One nusach says the gzeiros will make us stronger. Another nusach said I'm not scared. What I am worried about is that the Jews will start liking the Medina. Even those that went into the Medina and the government to fight, they went in holding their nose. And Aveira Lishma. And then he says also that it is not our Shita. He says we have to have Gedolim who reassess every time. It's a strategy. So maybe tomorrow, today Doirim is the strategy. Maybe tomorrow Mulchama will be the strategy. And then we have to go out in Mulchama even more than the Neturei Karta. And by the way, the Shmuel Orbach's time, that's what they're doing today. They had a big minutes, and the Shmuel Deitch quoted this piece from Reuven that I just said. And it says, Reuven says that one day we may have to go out and see this is the time. They claim to be old Agudistas, the old Agudashita. And everybody says that they're the big Kanoim. I want to, did I leave anything out? Is there something that I should mention that I didn't mention? Well, there's more, but I don't have time for the rest of it, because it's part of how the Rebbe maintained it. There were a lot of Chasidim, not a lot, some. I don't want to say any names, but if you go down the Aleph base, you skip Aleph, you get there very quick. That used to be Kanoish Chasidim, and now they're mamish real Zionists. So something happened over there. No, the Rebbe implemented controls to make sure that doesn't happen, from a Rambam and Moreh Nevuchim, from a this sefer, that sefer, and he brings this all also in Vayero Moshe. Everything that he did, that he survived, to the extent that Satmar was surviving, is only because of his understanding of the Torah. Now, one more thing I want to say. I know that even though, despite everything I said over here, people will still wonder, how could we be sure about Dr. Satmar Rebbe? So many people, Cholik, as is Roy. So at the end of Vayom Moshe, the first mimer, he says, Roy is not negay, he'll halacha, but I'll be slaughter. So I want to tell you something. I want to demonstrate something. There are two things. Thing number one. If a person does this sugya, and he learns it, so what comes out is this. We're not mechuyev to answer every kasha on every person in the world, or every sheet, or even Adam Gogo. I'll give you a moshel. Let's say I was giving a shiur on Hilchos Tefillah, and I said, Tfilas HaShachar Ad Chatzos, right? Tfilas HaMincha Ad HaErev. And somebody will come to me, we learn the Gemara, we learn the Mishnah, the Torah, Shulchan Aruch, Beis Yosef. And a guy's going to come to me and say, no, this Groisa Tzaddik davened 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So what am I going to say? I say, you know what? You have to ask him the kasha. It's not shver on me. He's shver. Go ask him. I don't know. Am I mechuyev to answer that kasha? I'm not mechuyev. As I state in Torah, you have a shverkeit on you. You got to know where the shverkeit is. Listen, if a guy's 100 gemaras and a toisus fakert, so if a guy knows how to learn, he knows he has a shver toisus. If a guy doesn't know how to learn, he thinks he doesn't have a shver toisus. He has 100 shver gemaras. That's not pshat. So the word is that after a person understands enough about this, so fine, there are the shitas, they're shitas. I'm not mechuyev to answer everybody's shitas. There's a shver shita, that's it. But if a guy doesn't learn the Mishnah, Tfilas HaShachar, he doesn't learn the Torah, he doesn't learn the Magen Avraham, he's not going to understand the difference between somebody who's makbid on davening early or somebody who davens 4 o'clock in the afternoon shachris. He's going to think there's 2 shitas, and I don't know, if right people daven 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it's a, no, that's not the way it works. But you have to understand, you got to come to a place where you understand what's glat and what's. I'm not saying there's no answer. I'm saying I'm mechuyev to give an answer. Now, there's another thing, and I want to demonstrate something. You know, sometimes shilas come up, and then I'm going to take questions. Sometimes shilas come up, and they, about other religions, Sheitlach from India, or somebody has to go into a church to do voting, or a Weight Watchers program, and you got to know the mitzias of another religion. It happens. So, grad on Christianity, the Rebbe has a tshuva, he passes like the Shoyu Meshiv, there's a difference between the different types of Christians. But what do I do? So, you got to find out about another religion. So you open a book. How do you know a book's reliable? So I have a trick that I do. I look in the section of the book about Yiddishkeit. And I see if it makes sense, if it's good. It's not a raya, but it gives some credibility to the rest. Because that's something I know about. So, if somebody says to themselves, you know what, Rabbi Shapiro, you made this whole drasha, kfira, I don't know what kfira is, I don't know what shalosh shvuos are, it's the time between Shivos B'Tammuz and Tisha B'Av is the shalosh shvuos, I don't know from Aguda, I don't know from anything. I only know what I know, this Rebbe says this Rebbe says that. So let's go to an area where we can all know something, you don't need to know any Torah. Let's go to Israel's 6-day war in 1967. So Israel won the war. There are people, Rabbonim, Balabatim, that Ad HaYervazeh insists that Israel's victory was a groisa nes. That Al Pi Derech HaTeva they had no chance. Now, first of all, every military expert and intelligence agency in the world predicted that Israel would win the war because they had the stronger side. If the Arabs would have won, maybe it would have been a nes. But even if Israel was weaker, it wouldn't be a nes. Because weaker sides sometimes win, like the Pri Megadim by Hanukkah. But they were the stronger side. The Rebbe said, I heard this from both Katz too. He heard this from the Rebbe. Because President Johnson, when Avi Iban, the Israeli ambassador, came to President Johnson and said they're going to wipe us and throw us into the sea. So he said to him, look, all our intelligence agencies say that you're going to whip them. And I'm saying that to Loshin Nakia. And the CIA, before the war, said there may be a war, and even if Egypt attacks first, it'll take a few days, maybe a week, maybe a little more, and Israel will wipe them all out. All of the Arab armies, all of them. Because the Arab armies stand no chance. Everybody knew. And the Rebbe writes in Al-Gulav Tzmur, he says, everybody knew, the Mechtavei Yitim, everybody knew Israel was going to win. I heard from both Katz, he said, if the war was a nes, Johnson was a Navi. If every scientist says, look, the nes, this is what's going to happen, and it happens, that's not a nes. On Purim, everybody thought it wouldn't happen, the Yeshua. Only Mordechai knew, but everybody thought it would happen. And everybody knows this. And even people who you tell them this Gross Tzaddik made a moifis, they'll say, hey, you believe these crazy stories, but the 6-day war is a mess. There was one person, there was a Satmar Rebbe, that said, B'shas Maisa, no, you're crazy, it's not a ness, it's derech hateva. The only Maisa Satan there is that people think it's a ness. The Tziyonim made up a bilbul that the Rebbe said it was a nest from the Sitra Achra. He never said that. He said it wasn't a nest. 6 places approximately. He says it wasn't a nest. The Satan does make nisim in many places, but this was not one of them. This was a derech hateva. Now, you go to people with seichel, and they'll still say it was a nest. And how do you know it was a nest? Well, this Rav said it was a nest. Rabbi said, the only way to know if it was a nest or not is to assess the capabilities of both armies and decide that the military capabilities of the Arabs was much more than Israel, and that Israel did something that B'derech HaTeva they couldn't do. Which Rav is going to say that he's capable of doing that? If you ask these Rabbonim, if a dishwasher is a klishlishi or klisheni, they'll say, oh, I got to know how it works, every little prat, detail. But over here, no, it was a nest. Everybody knew it was a nest. What do you mean everybody knew? This one man got up and said, what are you, crazy? It wasn't a nest. Every scientist, every expert, every historian, everybody knows it wasn't. They knew Israel was going to win. Here is an example of the Bilbul HaMoichus that takes place. And I want to tell you something, in my book that I wrote, so I wrote all sorts of bad things about Zionism, Zionim, Medina. You know what bothers them the most? It's unbelievable. The fact that I wrote the 6-day war wasn't an S. And I quoted the generals said it wasn't an S. A son of one of the generals in the 6-day war read my book, and he contacted me. And I asked him if he heard anything from his father more. By the way, I quoted his father. His father was interviewed for a magazine after the war, and he said, this thing, we were never even in Sakana, it was a bluff. It was bluff. We wanted people to get scared, and people were scared. So they told everybody it's a Sakana, and we wanted America to give us green lights to attack. But I said, did you hear anything else from your father that we don't know? He said, yeah. He says, Egypt. He says, everybody in the know knew that Egypt would not be ready to fight anybody in a war for 18 months, maybe 2 years. Now, here's the question. Ask people, ask them, why do you say this war was a nest? Why? Why? Well, everybody said it was. No, that's not a reason, right? They will not have a reason. It's against everything, the derech hateva that everybody knows, and yet they insist with a tkifus mamish of mesirus nefesh, no, it was a nest. If anybody can explain to me this, except that's a Maisa Satan. And here you have something that you don't need to be a big London to know. And one man, Satmar Rebbe, got up and said it's not a nest. Because, simple, he didn't say because of, well, he did have riots from Sukkim about the Arabs being bad fighters. But he says the ikar is, all the Mechtaveitim, everybody knew Israel would win. It's very simple. Here you have an example. So somebody's going to ask me, all these Rabbanim were chaylik on the Satmar Rebbe. So I said, they were chaylik on him about that also. And that's easy. You don't got to be a Lamdan for that. And what happened? So clearly, it's no kasha. See that? Look at that. That's something that everybody here can understand. You look at the newspaper, look it up. It's a davar pashut. And people with its kifas, no, it was a nest, it was a nest, it was a nest. Why would somebody think it's a nest? Why? Because everybody said so. The Hamoidia said nobody will ever figure out an explanation for this war. They wrote that in the newspaper. Menachem Kasha, in that ziyuf, he says, oh, this was a big nest like Yitzias Mitzrayim. They came Dom Vaish v'Simras Oshon, and Hashem made Nes Gadol Hayopoy, and the whole thing is Baba Maises, Mamish Baba Maises. Now these are the people who tell me chaylik on the Satmar Rebbe in the Torah. These people that say 6-day war was a nest have any pshat. Second thing, by the way, that they can't stand. There's a story. My shver, I said it was Talmud of the Chafetz Chaim, so I wrote a story about my shver. what he saw, what the Chofetz Chaim said about Rabbi Kook. The Chofetz Chaim had a table. My shver was there with his father. Father came to visit him in Rabbi, and he saw in a newspaper, Polish newspaper. I heard this from my shver. My shvagas heard this from my shver. My wife heard this from my shver. After my shver was by the Chofetz Chaim, he went to the Brisker Rov. He said over this story. Rebbe Soloveitchik used to say this over in Shir B'Shem my shver. It's in the Mishkanois Haroyim. B'Shem my shver and Rebbe. He didn't know who got it from who. Rebbe got it from my shver. My shver saw a speech that Cook gave in a newspaper, a Polish newspaper, about the soccer players. Groise Kiddush Hashem, that you didn't finally have soccer players. It was terrible. He clipped out the clipping and he put it on the Chofetz Chaim's table. And the Chofetz Chaim picked it up and he started shaking uncontrollably. I said, Kiddush Hashem, Ata Kodosh, V'Shimcha Kodosh, Pilke, that's ball in Polish, Pilke, Kuk, Shmuk, Puk, and he threw it down. There are other stories like that also, but they can't be soivel it. After the 6 Day War, this is the next thing they can't be soivel. You mamish see the Yetzer Hara working, you mamish see it. But Bekitza, this was the Rebbe's Shita. This little thing, this was the Shita's Rabbeinu. That because the Shvuos are an Indian of Kfira, therefore the Hishtatfus is an Indian of Kfira too, and therefore it's also to be from the Bechis. They say, no, it's not. The Steipler said, the Rebbe said, no, that Fakeret, it's a way of fighting them. It's a way of Doyer and not Milchama. That's it, that little prat. This is Shita's Rabbeinu. And you know why he wrote Vayarel Moshe, the emphasis, and not on the other things? You saw nationalism, we had all the other places. Because everybody knew about the other stuff. Everybody knew about it. The Mizrach Chistim knew that nationalism was Avodah Zarah. Every Litvak said it. Every Litvak said Zionism is Avodah Zarah, and Sionim are Koifrim. And they're not part of Klal Yisrael. There was no need for the Rebbe to write anything. Here there was a big need. Because the Rebbe held like this, first of all, the Gabi the Bechiris, but then regarding the Shalosh Shvus Bechlal, nobody knew. There was no such sefer. So he did something that was necessary. But it's not a sefer on Zionism, and it's not even a sefer on Sionim. It's negayah to Zionism, it's negayah to Sionim, but it's a sefer about making a Medina. And he needed it because of the Agudah went into the government, and because of the Agudah said that it's a mitzvah to vote, and because the Agudah said it's a mitzvah to be in the Knesset to fight the Koifim, and he needed, because the Agudah was moided to everything else. What did he need to write? Now, Lida, what happened was that the Bechiris becomes the whole fight against the Tzionim. There's only the Bechiris, and it's all, this whole thing, from beginning to end is only Satmar. And because they ended up in the Knesset, the Agudah, so everybody holds like Ben Gurion, that shows that they are not against the Tzionim anymore. And it's all fake news from the press and propaganda going on 100 years. But this over here, this is the Rebbe's Shita. This is the Rebbe's Torah on his Hezbollah on the Shalosh Shvuos. This is something that everybody knew, more or less.